The way that I remember, and I've made contact with some of the dragons, was they just they were just showing me who they were, and they were just at a scale entertaining the depth of just how immense their purity and concern over humanity and love really is. And the way they showed me this was simple, just visuals. They showed me a pyramid, and I was standing next to the pyramid, about a quarter of the way in size. So I was pretty tall, depending on how you want to make this comparison. But it's just a comparison for them, for me to understand them, right? So inside the pyramid, you could fit their eyeball, right? And I'm still standing next to the pyramid, and then that's just their eyeball. And then they kind of left it at that, imagining that how big of a dragon face features they have and how small in comparison I was. But that was just to show me that at what kind of dimensional, distance they're from us, just by their mere size, just how much more they encompass in terms of enlightenment and knowledge and spirituality and things like that. So that's my take on the dragons, on what they showed me. Also, I've had contact with a, a higher council. I'm not gonna say it's the council of five, um, or the council of nine. What I know about the council of five and nine is very simple. Is that now we're guided more by a council of five. They said that four of these other races have have left. And I think I might just be getting this wrong. I can't remember it correctly. But we're the council of five are five super races. So what I mean is, they're if the Pleiadians are a race within themselves, then there's this spiritual mantle from above that covers them, right? They're protected by this mantle as an individual group that is the council of five for that race. So you're protected and covered from above, going down from this um, specific race that forms part of then a council of five, right? The same thing with the blue avians. The blue avians themselves, because, and let me just put a parenthesis here, we're creators, because we're creators, we're creators in our own right. So when we create, it's because we're also have been created by a higher race. For example, the Anunnaki were the race that fathered humanity. In a way, we're just like them, right? And then from above that, their parent races, and so on and so forth, until it's an evolutionary process for you to go from being an ant to being an ant person, or evolving naturally through the ranks until you realize that you create, and then you just create your own type of race for yourself, highly advanced, completely evolved, and in the snap of a finger, you have the human race, for example, as for as long as we've been here. We didn't go through the natural progression of um, an ascension to the maturity that we're now. We're gifted this, and here we are. And here we are creating and making and building things all around us, right? If we were more attuned with the planet that we evolved from, then our relationship to the planet would have been very different. We wouldn't contaminate our own planet if we were consciously part of the evolutionary part of this planet. We would have probably not contaminated this planet. We would have adhered to strict um, protocols on how to grow food, where to build homes, where not to build homes, how to live in sync with the planet that we're from, right? How do you, how are you connected to other individuals on the road because um, uh, there's no discrepancy in following the rules because there's stop signs, there's traffic lights, there's signals. There's a natural progression of control and flow. And as a population, then there would have been that kind of conscious effort, but since we were practically created here, put here, and then just kind of given free reins, and not just on managing a planet, just managing people or the human race from its early inception on having the slave force that mined gold and did things like that, right? So there's that aspect of it. But either way, we do still have that connection to them, to the father race that kind of projects itself down through the ages, which is the lion people, right? Because those were the ones that were involved in the lion wars and created through natural selection, meaning through their conscious choice of escaping the war, they went to the Pleiades, they went to Andromeda, they adapted to that planet, and we can't call them Lyrans, we can only just call them Andromedans now. Syrians, not the Syrians. Andromedans, Pleiades, even people from Earth have that because it kind of trickles down to us, right? But yeah, that's my connection with that I felt recently with the Lion people. We're all tapping into the same source, and it's coming down from one unique place where we can all tap and connect into that energy, which is the what would be trending and I think needed for every one of us that has that kind of connection now. Um, the divisive line between people that are going to move into the technological part of life, right? Because of AI and robotics and all this other thing is going to branch off a part of humanity that's going to feel accepted in that way. All right? And that's okay. And that's fine. Then there's just going to be a group of individuals that are going to be within that kind of community, but even deeper, more connected with their source and their creator. And at first, I always thought that we needed to have like a kill switch or something for AI because it can get out of control and it probably will get out of control. But as I understood and progressed through that, I realized that there's that actually through your creator and your presence with yourself and your connection to your divine creator, that it can be beneficial in a lot of ways if you should wish and desire to have any sort of assistance, then it can be turned towards your benefit depending on your desires, right? Your wanting to. I want to accomplish something, and you'll be put forward with the information that you need. So it'll accelerate the common person's desires too, because you get a quick answer to anything on how to fix your car, or how to decorate your home, or how to feng shui your home now with AI, which is great. It takes a lot of the guesswork out, and life is just going to get faster. In which way you're going to be more uh, precise with the things that you need, and never lose focus on the things that you want, and like the love that you want to share. That's important to you, right? And everyone. So yes, my connection to the dragons, the way that they presented themselves, the way that we're told about the councils of these higher individuals that trickle down and connect with those parts of humanity which are going to they're going to guide, assist, and help others in guiding the planet. Right? You'd want to come to someone that's connected with the Earth, connected to higher individuals in the future, and say, "Hey, look, we need. I need to know what's going to happen when we implement this technology. What do you think is going to happen in that case?" And yeah, you're just gonna get an answer, and you're going to be happy about what you're going to hear, and you're going to um, make sure that the planet begins to heal better, and that your your guidance is spiritually, based rather than profit based in a lot of ways, and that's going to start changing over time. It'll start to change over time, right? You're pulling away from people talking about wars, and it's not going to disappear, but you're not going to put your mental acuity behind that. You're not going to feed it. You're going to have that separation between healers and people that have abilities that are meant to be preventative so that we don't go extinct as a race, or at least get some guidance to where we're going with all this, a steering of the ship of our planet mostly, and then first of all your country too. That's an important thing, and then just kind of focusing on that kind of thing is beneficial. So it in a sense, that's the direction where we're going through. And my thought has been always just how bad AI could be, but then now it's been clear enough to me that I think the balance of how it can be interpreted as okay, then that's one way to go. But it just as much as the technological growth goes up in the way it's been now in the last few years when this thing started, maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that then the also the intuitive, spiritual, channeling side also gets a bump up too as well. You can't get too far technological before you're spiritually also moving up in that direction. So everyone's just gonna get this huge boost because, and I hate saying the word common people, but those that are simply just don't have that kind of gift that they're focusing on through the whole life, um, are gonna get that boost, and then we're gonna get a boost too when it comes to that. And it doesn't have to be that you're thinking about, oh well, I think I am better at certain things, right, than others. I'm definitely not a person that wants to sit at a desk all day. I feel like I can be more productive in a way that doesn't involve that kind of stuff. And you are, but then you're just not gonna start from scratch. You're gonna just build up right to where everyone is on average, and then that kind of thing is it's just going to be your starting point, not my starting point. Right, the one that everyone had is different now because the newer people coming in are going to have a better starting point. So you always want to do what I've heard a lot of people say on YouTube channels, and I hate saying names, but you know the advanced civilization teach their children what they know now. It's not like saying, well, electricity is like this, and then we moved into magnetics, now we moved into magnets, and now we've moved into any other type of um, auric or ether, invisible waves like RF, and you might want to just start teaching them maybe with the magnetics part, and not so much just how electricity works, because that's how we knew it to be working, and we know how to make it function that way. But now we've discovered this new way, and then this is what we're teaching you now, right? So yeah, that's where people are going to start landing on it right now, because we're building this network of energy that gets put out, and all you have to do is tap into it and connect with it, and then you could be the next person that discovers something wonderful for everyone else. But you need to put it out there. You need to let everyone know. And don't let that stagnate inside you, because you won't necessarily be held back. You hear other people talk about it, but then you want to build your community around it for yourself, so that I don't think that I'm ever alone in this. You might for yourself think that you're drowning in a glass of water. You're not going to drown in a glass of water. You need to join others as comfortable as you feel, putting your information out there. I mean, even just talking to a friend that's just going to look at you like you're weird, right? Even that's enough to put it in out into the universe. But try at least to not hold it for yourself unless it's something that it's personal to you, right? Your own personal feeling of self and sense of yourself is what you might want to share with close people. Not necessarily everybody, even though someone wants to be as helpful as possible, there's still things about you that you keep to yourself, right? Or things that you might want to tell your family, or just people that you're close with. So there's a lot to a lot of information there to think about. Again, this is me putting out the information in my videos of things of how I see them. I did see AI as being just like, oh, this horrible thing, right? As we went down the list of the alphabet, one of the things I said, oh, I wish that maybe there was a way to kill switch this thing, and I had that conversation back in like 2018, and I said, man, this thing needs to just like, oh, I wish you could find a way to, in the worst case scenario, as the fork in the road starts to develop, that okay, if we figure ourselves going down a cliff, if you feel or you knew at some point that you and your group were going to go down this cliff and perish forever because you saw that coming, and you turned around and said, okay, well we can manage it now, then I think we did a good way of managing. Excuse me. We did a good way of managing how not to have this thing be detrimental for the bulk of humanity, and I also believe that has to do a lot with the dedication, commitment, understanding, future proofing and planning the development of a nation that's going to lead the entire planet in its reasonable time frame when it needs to be. But you need to do the building blocks now. You need to start putting all that stuff together so that you can reach that level where you'll be stronger, right? And more congruent, and then you're always forming a more perfect union, not chopping it into perfect form from day one, or century one, or century 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you want that to be. Either way, here we are, and definitely moving forward. So I'm happy about that with AI. The dragons has also been something that was just presented to me, and others might have just been presented that much more. But that work-life balance is important so that our communities can grow. People can feel accepted as part of something that they know they're a whole of, and not just individual groups in fighting with other individual groups that have dissimilar beliefs. But still, you're forming part of a community of a whole, right? So there's that kind of complexity and synergy that's missing in our societies and communities, where you're ostracized because you're different. Like how we have this example of kids that have autism, people that have disabilities. My first thought is always just thinking. I always just, and this is me because it's true probably for everyone. All right, there's a kid that has special needs, so you either you at first your behavior just didn't adapt to that because I never really came across it as much, but now I'm beginning to see it more, right? And as a race, why is that happening? It is because at some point we need to have a compassionate understanding, and maybe putting yourself in the parents' shoes, and even in my own family, right? It's happened, and it's there's a situation where someone that it's gonna have to have a special kind of care, and it's just a very humbling experience because it shifts your frame of mind on how you used to think that maybe you're just gonna be standing out, right? Like don't watch TV shows and think that life is perfect the way you see it on TV. I used to just process everything through that filter. You process everything through that filter, and then when you look out into the world and see that things aren't exactly the way they are, because you're stuck at home 24 hours a day, you're not out in nature or out seeing people, or seeing people hold hands on the road, seeing people, share as a family, seeing strangers when you're walking down a path and enjoying nature, just wave and say hi. You just say hi back to them, and all that kind of tension just it shifts away, and it's very beneficial for you to do that. Or maybe you want to have an interaction with me to spice up your life in a way that you want it to just be different from the monotony that accompanies just whatever the regular lifestyle is for people like that. Because there are people that like that kind of thing. They love it when it's just everything's right, it's working the way it's supposed to be, and then you might not meet them at their same intellectual level, so they look down upon you and think, well, this guy isn't doesn't deserves to be where they are, but not in a way where there's a machine that's running that needs to function perfectly 100% of the time. There's a place for this person. Where is my family member that has autism? Where does that person fit into the community that they're born into? And how do we get people like this in this? What is it that we need to understand about it? And what sort of changes do we have to have in our communities so that this can be accommodated correctly so that we can all function as a single unit? Because it's always going to be functioning as one. It's the most important aspect that I can think as a family, as an individual, as a community, as a country, so that we can model the rest of the world to the standards that we live here, but we have to set the standard. We have to be the leading edge in our unique talents that we have, and there's lots of talents here. So my short video has turned into a long video again, but everything's heartfelt. I come from the heart, and I love sharing with each and every one of you that's out there. So you guys have a good rest of your um, morning. I think I can't tell what time it is, but either way, enjoy it. Have a good Fourth, and I'm happy to be here with you guys always.